What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through my transfer plan for the upcoming blank game week 29. So blank game week 29 is upon us, and although it's actually quite a small blank game week, only 2 fixtures, it definitely packs a punch, and not a lot of us actually have 11 starters at the moment. Now if you guys are using the free chip, don't worry, in a future video I'll be releasing my free draft, but at the moment with 3 free transfers, I'm going to try and get 11 starters as best as possible. So that's literally what this video will be all about. It's going to be me waffling and yapping about how I potentially can use 3 free transfers, and I'll be discussing that after I go over a quick recap of how game week 28 is currently going. So if that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going over a quick recap of how game week 28 is currently going, I'm recording this just before Newcastle take on West Ham, and therefore we still have one player left to feature, and that's going to be Isaac. Now at the moment we've got 52 points and we've got a red arrow to 93k, and I actually can't understand how this team got a red arrow. Before the game week started in the deadline stream, I commented how good the team does look. I guess that usually means that it's going to be a pretty rough game week in FPL. So let's see if some Isaac magic can get us over to a green arrow, but with that high effective ownership, probably not. I will actually prefer if Isaac does miss out completely tonight, and that's because I've got João Pedro for a 9-pointer first on my bench. Now even if I started João Pedro this week, he probably wouldn't have scored. He literally only scores when he's on my bench. So if you guys started JP, you can thank me for those points. So let's see what happens tonight. Isaac probably recovered from that injury. If he does miss out though, I'll probably be quite happy. Now in terms of the rest of our bench, got Fabianski, but we had Raya between the sticks for his 3-pointer, and then Mikolenko and Greaves both blanked. Going back to Raya, I guess it was his fault for that Bruno free kick goal, so I can't really complain too much, but he was one save off getting an extra save point. So we'll just have to take the 3-pointer to the bank. As a Liverpool fan, I was super happy that they drew this fixture, but as an FPL manager with a double up in defense, not as much. Trent also lost their clean sheet off a pretty silly kind of defensive mistake from Van Dijk plus Alisson. Other than that though, had a relatively quiet game, had a little bit of attacking threat, but no attacking returns. Then Gabriel comes in as the second Arsenal defender, so the double clean sheet wipeout was pretty bad, and his attacking threat has also gone off the planet. So I don't exactly know if I can classify him as an elite option. He has got me a few clean sheets though in the past few game weeks, and I guess the same could be said about Munoz. So no attacking returns, he switched it up, it's going to be those defensive returns. I'm still waiting though for the massive haul with attacking plus defensive returns. And because he blanks in 29, we're going to be waiting one more game week. He was the only performer though in our defense, so credit to him. Was a pretty good fixture though. Definitely the standout performer of the game week was yet another Mo Salah absolute haul, 15 points doubled to 30. Now I know this might be a very lucky game, he got 2 penalties, converted both of them. And when you consider Cole Palmer missed a penalty and got a 1-pointer, I do feel quite sorry for you captainers. So unlike last week, this week was going to be a massive swing. I think though it took a little bit more of a risk though to go against Salah versus Southampton, but Palmer getting a penalty and missing it is quite unlucky. Quite happy though that I did stick the armband on Mo Salah like the majority of managers, but his effective ownership was so high the gains weren't even there. The gains hopefully would have come from my last 3 midfielders that were slightly more differential, but they all ended up blanking. Let's start off with Mbumo. Once again Brentford disappointing. I think between my double up in the Brentford attack, I've got 2 returns over a bunch of game weeks. I think Mbumo almost played as a wing back this entire fixture. I was just kind of hoping that at home they could stick it to Aston Villa, who haven't been great defensively, but once again I was disappointed. The disappointment then continued on to Semenyo, who seems to rack up yellow cards for fun. If the best player in the world was whoever gets the most yellow cards and misses the most big chances, Semenyo might be in the top 5. Just super disappointing. As the Bournemouth asset of choice, I wish I had the money to buy Kluivert, but at the time I obviously couldn't afford him. Then we go on to the disappointment of Eze. With Mateta out injured, I spoke about the lack of attacking threat, but I was hoping that Eze stepped up and kind of replaced him. No penalties unfortunately here, only the extra clean sheet point, another differential down the drain. Then finally up front, already spoken about our Brentford double up, Visa with another 2-pointer. Brentford did hardly anything in this fixture. So let's see what happens tonight. Maybe Isaac can get a few returns. By returns I mean miss the entire fixture and I get JP off the bench. But that'll be extra jam as he did get a last minute penalty in their fixture. It just seems like he can't score from open play, it has to be a penalty, and that's what makes the benching even worse. But let's see, probably think Isaac starts tonight, don't think the rank is going to change that much. At the moment, a red arrow to 93k and 52 points. Leave me in the comments down below, hopefully it was a better game week for yourselves. How's that overall rank looking going into blank game week 29? Let's now shift our attention. So blank game week 29, only 2 blank fixtures, but they, as I mentioned, pack a punch. And that's because pretty much all of us do own Crystal Palace and Liverpool options. So at the moment I do have 9 starters in my team, but their fixtures are a bit questionable. So let's go over the team, starting off in our goalkeeper department. Raya does have Chelsea at home, and that's combined with Gabriel with the same fixture. Now I've watched Chelsea a few times recently and they haven't looked great, especially Cole Palmer, and therefore this could be a clean sheet but probably not. I'm then also forced to play Mikalenko plus Greaves. I just hope Greaves keeps a clean sheet if I don't go for Chris Wood. That'll literally make me super happy. Otherwise, Mikalenko West Ham isn't the worst fixture in the world, but they are playing a better brand of football. Let's see how they do tonight against Newcastle. Then our midfield department looks also pretty terrible. We've got Palmer against Arsenal against my double up in defense. That's never what you guys want to see. Otherwise, in Mbumo, I've just put the Kamsi armband on him for jokes. Don't worry, whoever I bring in will probably be my captain. And Bournemouth and Brentford are playing each other this week. So I'm just hoping for some massive amount of goals, including Visa up front. I'll definitely take a 6-6 with Haddies for all my players. Just imagine the attacking returns. Then our final player, João Pedro, has Man City away, a team that's conceding goals, but on paper, probably not the best fixture you would say. So yes, these 9 players are my total team at the moment for blank game week 29. I'm definitely going to need those 3 transfers to make it look a little bit better. Now for the players to remove, this is where things get a little bit tricky. At the moment, Salah, Eze, Isaac, Munoz and finally Trent. And you probably want all those players for the future game weeks. Unfortunately, can't play Fabianski as an outfield player for an extra man, but with those 3 free transfers, we should be able to get a full starting 11. So let's go on to that transfer plan. Now the first thing I want to just clarify is going to be my upcoming chip strategy, and that's going to be me wildcarding potentially game week 31. By that time, we should know who doubles in 33 and who blanks in 34, for example. So in game week 31, we should get a clearer picture of the entire blank and double schedule. So with that in mind, I really only have to go for players for game week 29 plus game week 30. But just remember, if you do take a player out and you want him in the future, you'll have to buy him back probably more expensive. For example, let's take our first option who kind of hinges on which player we go for, and that's going to be Isaac. I've kind of come to the decision that I'm probably going to sell him this week. Now at the moment with that price drop, he's going to be sold for 9.1 million. I can afford another price drop on him, as just remember a player only drops every 0.2 as long as you bought him for a cheap price. So the reason why Isaac holds the keys to my transfer plan is whoever I go for as my replacement forward is really going to depend on how much money I have to spend. So the first obvious replacement might just be to go for someone like a Chris Wood, but as you guys know, I'm the #1 Chris Wood hater in FPL, and therefore I'm looking at Erling Haaland at 14.7 million. Now I know what you're saying, what has Erling Haaland done to deserve so many players bring him in? And the answer is probably not that much. Not many hauls have come from him in the past few game weeks, let alone the entire FPL season, but it is that Brighton and Leicester fixture that look pretty juicy at home. He also comes in as a Kamsi option with Salah with a blank, but where things spice up is Salah vs Everton, Haaland vs Leicester at home, and that's going to be in game week 30. So at the moment, this transfer does look pretty likely, but as mentioned, I could actually succumb to bring in Chris Wood at a cheaper price tag if I don't feel like Erling Haaland's worth the budget. Now with Erling Haaland being so much more expensive than Isaac, even though I have 1.5 in the bank, I need a bigger downgrade, and that's going to be in my midfield department. So let's talk about the most popular 2 downgrades I could go for. The first one is Mo Salah. Yes, I could actually be selling Mo Salah. Now I have checked the price tags. If I do sell him and buy him back in a future week, I'm probably going to lose about 0.5, 0.6, which when you do consider the bench boost and needing value, that could be quite a bit of money. Now also I spoke about the fact that he does have Everton in game week 30, but if I do have Erling Haaland, I could just captain him and might not captain Salah. So is he worth actually just having at that expensive price tag? Now the answer is actually probably yes. With the amount of points he's scored, he's definitely worth the price tag, and that's why I might actually take out Cole Palmer instead. Now there's quite a bit of value between these two players, but I'll speak about that shortly in my replacements. The only thing with Cole Palmer though, is he does have a fixture in game week 29. So yes, the blank game week fixture might be Arsenal away. I do own a double up. That's not super optimal. And with the current form, maybe Chelsea don't even score in this fixture. He does have a chance though, they could get a penalty for example, and then he might definitely outscore Salah in game week 29. And that gives me an extra player and some flexibility on my third replacement. So between these two assets, it is quite close, but I think the majority of people are probably saying take out Cole Palmer with his bad form. But Salah does give me some extra bang for your buck. Now in terms of the two replacements I'm looking at, it's going to be Bruno Fernandes as my first more expensive option, otherwise Kluivert from Bournemouth. Now here's where that kind of value difference comes into account. Let's for example say I take out Salah, I can go for Bruno, but if I go for Cole Palmer, I'll go for Kluivert. Now between these two, is there that much between them? Probably not, especially with Kluivert having Ipswich in game week 30. So it's kind of Leicester and Forest away versus Brentford and Ipswich at home, and Bournemouth are in better attacking form than United are. So that's why it might actually be a no-brainer between these two. Just go for Kluivert, he's cheaper, I can go for Cole Palmer out. But Bruno does entice me even as a Campsy option against Leicester in game week 29. So that's where our extra funds will come from. The first move obviously Isaac to Haaland, the second move either Salah to Bruno or Palmer to Kluivert, and that gives us one extra free transfer. Now I'm going to be going over two variations, and this will also depend on who I take out. If I take out Salah, I'll obviously be taking out a blank midfielder, and therefore I can take out one of my actual starting players. So at the moment I'm thinking about João Pedro out for Evan Nielsen from Bournemouth. As with Kluivert, he has Brentford and Ipswich at home. Now though JP has been scoring a few points, they all have been from penalties, and I don't really think his attacking play has been that strong. The fixtures on paper also pretty tough. It's going to be Man City away and then Aston Villa at home, but I think Evan Nielsen might be better. So once again, this transfer would be if I take out Salah. I could always do this if I take out Palmer, but that's not super optimal. As mentioned, I'm taking out a blank player when I only have 10. So that's why if I do go for Cole Palmer as he has a fixture, I therefore have to take out probably Eze, and the replacement I'm looking at the moment is going to be Gibbs White. Maybe it's the fact that I'm a little bit salty about Eze blanking in game week 28, but I also want some Chris Wood coverage at the end of the day. So Gibbs White has looked pretty strong, has some good attacking numbers, Ipswich United okay fixtures, and once again gives you another kind of blank game week 29 player. So those are going to be the two variations of my 3 free transfers. I could always consider a route of downgrading Trent to someone like a Guardiola. I could also do that if I want to. It gives me a bit of extra change, but I probably want Trent for Everton at home in game week 30. That's what makes this kind of blank game week so tough, is what players do you actually want for game week 30? I mean, Eze even has Southampton away in that fixture. I think these two routes though, to potentially Erling Haaland, are my 2 favorites, but you guys can comment down below which you prefer. I think the majority of people will probably be saying keep Salah as an option in game week 30, and that probably makes sense with the form that Cole Palmer's been in. I do however like a potential punt on a Bruno Fernandes, but if Kluivert does match him over the 2 weeks, I might as well just go for the cheaper option. You guys can also comment down below your own transfer plans. Are you guys also going for Erling Haaland, or are you sticking with a potential other striker? Always interested to see how you guys are getting along in terms of your rank as well as your transfer plan. And let's see how game week 28 concludes tonight with Newcastle taking on West Ham. Otherwise, make sure those notifications are on for my future videos, free at draft as well as team selection coming later in the week. A reminder about the European football, maybe hold off on those early transfers as teams will be getting knocked out this midweek. But that's basically wrap for the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it and subscribe if you have subscribed yet. Tons of content still coming up. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's me, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.